Praise and Production.
Gumbolaya podcast, C.A. Purcell. I got a most specialist guest in the building, Jessica Massa.
Hi.
Give me all the titles. Like, I know you're a writer. I know you content producer. I remember web series. You did a web series, right? Didn't you do like a how to not be a crazy girl? Something like that? The crazy girlfriend?
Project. No, women are never crazy.
My bad. Wait. You had something about how to know if you're the crazy girlfriend or something.
Yeah, I think that probably still exists.
So
on
did
the
you
internet
break your
somewhere.
own rule? You said that emphatically.
I don't think at that age, I think I must have been 26 or 27 when we made that. And I think I didn't understand yet that women aren't crazy. People aren't crazy. That like human relationships are complicated and trigger and evoke many emotions in everybody, myself included.
This is good stuff.
I think it was just part of the like dating blogosphere, conversational ecosystem. So we hopped on. I mean, I've also like done things that could be categorized. Again, I don't really use the word crazy now, of course, but like
this dance
as
is fun.
Elevated, elevated versions of myself. And I know everyone else has too. So hopefully it like feels a little relatable because also, of course, relationships can make everyone a little crazy. But all the titles. I feel like I've had
writer,
so many
producer,
weird different lives. I've identified as a writer at certain points, as a video producer and director, as a leader and manager of people, as an activist. Other points in my life, I worked in the music industry. I was a publicist.
I forgot about that.
Was like a junior archaeologist in a fishing village in Greece. Like I have like academically been an amateur psychologist for a really long time. So I've just been all over the place. It's been a non-linear journey.
Okay. So that would be a great segue to explain why I have invited her here. So this is a labor of love for me, right? Ain't nobody asking me for these episodes. It's just fun. I talk to people I enjoy talking to, friends, family, whatever. Jessica, I met through my wife. She is an alum of the wife. And whenever we do the friend gathering, she's often there. And I've just always enjoyed talking to her, enjoyed picking her brain, enjoyed listening to the questions that she would ask and how she would explain a perspective that nobody else is talking about or kind of, And so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking to her. I was like, yo, come through. So what, can we please do the archaeologist in Greece?
Yes. And I'll also just say to validate everything you just said, when you told me you have a podcast where you're just talking to people that you enjoy talking to, it was so not shocking because I feel like every time we do get together with the friend group, it turns into until 2 a.m, like wide ranging, really personal, really vulnerable, really supportive and helpful conversation.
I love it, by the way.
It's been amazing.
I'm in heaven in those moments when we're all just kind of talking about life and encouraging each other and sharing this stuff. That's home for me. That's how I grew up, is literally just sitting around a table and talking. My mom was just very big on stop. Let's sit and let's all talk. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't a we need to talk because. That was just life. And I didn't really realize that was a big deal until I got old enough to learn how many people try to live and manage relationship without having these moments of just conversation. This is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm feeling. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? And then more complication gets added on. And eventually everybody feels like divided in situations like that because they haven't had enough connection time. So for me, that's fun. I look forward to it. And I'm usually in a state of self-check because my fascination and love for people can be a little, what's the words? I don't want people to feel pushed or that I'm invading their privacy, but I'm fascinated by learning how people's dots connect in their mind and in their heart. You know what I mean? When you're talking to somebody who, let's say the subject of, I don't know, a sibling comes up and all of a sudden they're like, you're feeling some aggression and anger. I'm like, what's that? It's like somebody turns on the light and I can't not look at it, right? But there's a vibe, a lot of social expectations is that you're not supposed to ask people something that could be personal. And I'm like, but how would I know that? They got to tell me it was personal. So it's fun for me.
Yeah. And who said that? Because in my experience, most people love connecting, not having their space or their history invaded, but I feel like we are all really hungry for connection. And so someone actually being interested in why did you respond that way? Or what did that make you feel? Or I noticed a change in your face. Like what's that about? I
that's why, feel like that.
You used to feel invaded or you used to feel hungry?
I used to feel like people wanted that, but I feel like there's been a shift in like the last 10 or so years. Maybe it's just me, but I used to feel like that desire I had to learn people, to get to know folk, to, broaden the social circle, yada, yada, yada. I thought that was just a general thing. I would say most of my lessons kind of came from engaging in conversation on some type of superficial platform, like a Facebook or whatever. And, honestly engaging like, hey, this is what I think about what you just said. And then the immediate like aggression and what the hell is wrong with you? And, I'm like, well, I didn't say anything intentionally offensive. So how do we go from 0 to 100 and we're just talking about a TV show or whatever it was? You still feel like most people in general are looking for connection, when they're like locked in the room with the device most of the day? Like,
gosh, no, it's a great point, and it might be semantics because it's like, what did we mean by connection? Like, if that means fighting about political issues over Facebook, clearly somebody is hungry for that. Not me, or most of the people I know. That type of like vitriol and engagement and grandstanding. I guess I just don't think of that as connection. I think of that as, I part of me can't help but feel like the reason people are so quick to combat each other is because there's a lack of connection in their lives. That if people were actually really, if their lives were full of meaningful, fulfilling relationships and places where they could have vulnerable or kind of tough or kind of challenging conversations without it being combative, then they wouldn't feel the need. Like, what makes somebody go on and start yelling at somebody on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter? I don't think it's they're like waking up, having an incredibly meaningful, fulfilling day with lots of people they love, and then wanting to go on Twitter and attack everybody. So I feel like I don't know exactly how they're connected. I have a feeling some really smart people are probably researching that now and trying to figure it out. But to me, the sort of epidemic of loneliness that is being very much talked about now, and the way that people are engaging, at least online, are connected in some way. It's like, if you can't get real connection, then maybe you're going to at least reach out and try to get a reaction from people. Like, everyone needs to feel like they matter. And if the way to matter is to make someone else mad, then maybe that feels better than like thinking no one knows you exist. But obviously
that's an impact that they can kind of recognize. That makes a lot of sense to me. I guess my concern when I say that it doesn't feel like people are looking for like real life relationship is because the option to engage with people legitimately and completely was, as far as I know, has never been off the table as an option until quarantine, until we kind of had to. But, I remember 11, 12, maybe 15 years ago, being out with friends, and I have a pet peeve about people like being on the phone a lot. I mean, everybody, we got phones,
Same.
you know what I'm saying?
Same.
But not like most of the time, not if I'm literally talking to someone and like not looking up at all. Like that, it drives me nuts. I mean, I had to let it go. But I remember being at a restaurant in the late 2000s, around the 2010s, 11s or so. And I remember thinking that because someone that I was chilling with put their phone in their pocket because they themselves realize, you know what, that's not cool. Let me be here, right? And so we talked for a few seconds, and I looked around as we were waiting for our food, and I remember trying to find people who were not, and there were tables of families and friends, and I another one that sticks out to me incredibly is when I see people dating and they're at a table at a nice spot. And I'm like, yo, my head always goes to the dude. I'm like, bro, what are you doing, yo? Like, you need to give some type of indication of why you want her to hit you back. Because, you know, I don't know why I think like that. Maybe that's sexist.
No. I've been a waitress on and off many different times in life. And something that shocked me as the years went on was always, I mean, as a waitress, you just see many dates every night. And obviously, and especially one of my jobs was when I was a writer and an author. It was like a 7-year period where I was writing and talking about dating and relationships 24/7. So I was particularly fascinated when I was waitressing.
I think that's why I love talking to you. I could talk about relationships all day, just like people get bored and annoyed and they're like, I don't want to talk about this no more. I'm sad. I'm like, oh, okay.
I also don't think people do. I mean, my experience was like, gosh, I couldn't get anyone to not talk about it for 5 minutes. So it's like, is there any other topic we're into? Because I just spent all day like writing and reading about this, but it's so universal. Like I started lying to people about my job at that point. They'd ask and I would say, no offense. I think like accountants are so important, but I would just tell people I was an accountant because I was like, I need an hour where we're not deep in this. So I feel like people love talking about it, but as a waitress, like I would just be watching these dates play out every single night. And you could so often see how it was going. And also as a waitress, it was fun because you could sort of play into it. Like if there was a couple who seemed really cute, you could bring them like a free round of drinks or an extra dessert. And they were like, oh my God. And you're like, okay, I'll be part of their first date story if it works out. But also so often you'd be looking at some table and one person would be like constantly picking up their phone. You'd see the other person start feeling really disconnected. There's research that shows that even just by having your phone face down on the table while you're with somebody, it detracts from connection and it makes it less engaged, less intimate. And so not to sound super old, and I just spent over 8 years working on content for the internet. So I'm not like cut us off from the social media, put your phones away. But personally,
there has to be some kind of line though.
Well, and if not, also the idea that you're available to people all the time. Like why, you know, obviously if it's an emergency, if you called me an emergency in a dinner, hopefully I'd see it. But otherwise, let's say you texted me and I'm at dinner with someone else. Like why should I be prioritizing your text over this person who's sitting right in front of me? Like I can just read that when we leave. And
I'll take it a step further. What kind of emergency would necessitate calling a friend? If it's an emergency, you need to be calling the cops, fire department, paramedics.
That's so true.
Right? Maybe a friend of yours that works in the police force, maybe, something like that. But why would you be calling the homie? You know? So I get that completely. I think the fascinating part for me is I can't think of even a perspective that feels better other than you have to control that kind of access to. You got to put your phone away or leave it in the car or whatever, because every content creator I've ever met, everybody that works for companies that spend so much of their time focused on media and whatnot, and like software engineers and like people that work on these social apps, the goal is to find ways to keep people engaged. Like that's what you're supposed to do. So I can't be mad at them necessarily, but I'm sure you've read about like the dark side of that kind of technology.
Of course,
But the good side, you're supposed to be showing ads that somebody wants to see. You're supposed to be prioritizing the people that seem like-minded, so they want to talk more. Like all that stuff makes sense to me. So then I'm like, okay, well, if that is kind of how it's supposed to be, then what are we to do to keep ourselves, I guess, safe, maybe would be a good word, from, I guess, forgetting the difference between what I would say life and not real life. I can't think of a better way to say it. But, real life for me is even this. I mean, even though we got cameras on and all that, but it's still a person talking to a person. I can see your face. I can hear your tone of voice. I can respond to things that I say because I'll see how they affect you. You ever heard Louis C.K.'s bit where he was talking about the difference between talking online versus in person, how it's not great for kids? I mean, it was a great bit, and I'm gonna strip away all the funny stuff because I don't want to mess his bit up. But I thought it was a very, very well thought out perspective. And basically he was explaining kids need to be able to see the impact that their language and behavior has on the other person. And when we were young, on a playground or whatever, you say something, you're stupid or you are ugly, whatever, right? You see the other kid, you know what I mean? You see that look of impact and kind of shock or whatever their response might be. And you can add that at least into your data bank. Like whether or not a kid has enough empathy to respond is one thing, but at least they have the data. Yeah. Versus you say something horrible online, nothing. No face. Like
there's a consequence, and positive too. Yeah. Like you don't see people get
like, oh man, that was awesome. I was totally a jerk. It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, fun for some people.
Totally.
But you don't get the opposite side of that. And his point was that is that's a very dangerous, I guess, luxury to have in communication is the ability to say something awful. And it seems as though that is much more of the norm online. So I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups because I just like talking to people. And, all kind of interest groups, different types of technology, music and production and stuff. A lot of video game groups, several Office TV show groups. I'm an Office fanatic.
You guys excited about the reboot? The news just came out. They're going to reboot The Office. It came out this week, I think. People have a lot of feelings about it. Look into it and get back to me. I'm curious what you and the group thinks. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. It might ruin
I didn't know iconic. This.
Yeah. I only know because everyone on Twitter is like, do we have any new ideas? There's like nothing new to explore in life. We're just going to keep remaking the old things.
Well, I'm shocked because I didn't know. But I actually, so I went through the Office series. I'm totally off topic now. That's fine. I went through the Office series several times. So I had a very traumatic year, and I was looking for things that could help me get through the day in as healthy ways as I could find, right? And often the hardest times were when I was doing things where I wasn't engaging people. If I'm cooking breakfast or cleaning up or doing like mechanical work, if I'm like cutting up audio or something like that where I'm not listening to it a whole lot, I need something on engaging my mind a little bit so that I'm not just sitting in silence, because then I go in my head. And at the time, now I'm a little better, but at the time, I was a very bad place. So I went through The Office many, many, many times. And after that, I reached a point where I'm like, okay, that worked in whatever way up till now. I need to move forward. And I started doing other things. Like I started exercising a little bit more at the time. I was supposed to keep it up.
But it's the human journey. All of our lives are defined by whether we're in an exercising phase or not. And it just goes like this and then we die.
Oh, it was helping though. It was helping. Because it was the first time in my life where I was dealing with depression so significant that I was getting feedback from the wise ones like, you need to talk to somebody because this is serious, right? So, but I learned the exercise and physical activity, it really helps. And I heard it a million times, and eventually I was like, look, what I'm doing isn't working as fast as I would like it to, and some of that is just my own impatience or whatever. But when you're stuck in the mud, all your mind is thinking about is, let me get out of this mud. Not, whether or not I need to learn a lesson in this mud. No, I want to not feel like this. So after a while, the 80 millionth time going through every episode, also the Superfan episodes. I don't know if you have Peacock. Are you Office fan? Am I speaking Greek?
Oh, yeah, I've seen, I think, the whole series, the American series.
Okay. So you should know, for those of us that are Office fanatics, I've seen this series. That's nothing. We've seen it many times. I probably hit 14 or 15.
Wow.
Full, like all the way through. Now, I'm not amazing. Watching every episode, you know what I mean? It's just on because I know it already.
Sure.
I know what's happening. So anywho, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't need to be going through this particular series redundantly because it made me kind of feel like I was stuck, kind of like I was repeating the same behavior, and my mind was on moving forward healthily. Healthily.
I like the even longer version better.
Thank you. I appreciate
that.
Thank you for that. So I got to the point where I needed to move forward. Why were we talking about The Office? Facebook groups. So one of the things I noticed is a stark difference between just the general vibe of different groups. In general, not all the time, but in general, a group about something that you do that results in something tangible. The engineering groups I'm a part of, songwriting groups, just general musician groups, stuff like that. Also, I feel like I get that a little bit from the general gaming groups. I mean, like an Xbox group, for example, versus a game, right? They seem to be a bit more friendly, welcoming, peaceful conversation. We're all into the same kind of thing, right? TV shows, specific games, specific programs, right? People argue over nothing. And I haven't, I would love to maybe find somebody who's really, really passionate about studying that particular concept because it seems to be consistent. The broader the topic and the more inherent a tangible takeaway from a process is, it seems that people's demeanor is much more inviting and communal. But when you get into specifics, I mean, I posted something where I was trying to do something in a game and it was a little confusing. Some games intentionally leave things vague, so you figure it out. And some of the fun in the game is figuring it out. You know what I mean? Kind of puzzle-ish, But I posted something and this guy wrote a paragraph complaining, why can't anybody look anything up anymore? Google does exist, right? All of this stuff. Now, I'm many moons past that kind of stuff bothering me. I don't care, right? I literally don't even respond. I had that phase where it would mess up my whole day. I don't care no more, right? Obviously, there's something missing in this person's life, but it ain't for me, So I would leave it alone. But then someone would respond to that person very aggressively in defense of the poster and also in defense of the fact that we're in a conversational group. Like, that's what this is for, is to talk about this topic. Why would that annoy you?
The tone is very contagious, though.
It's weird.
I feel like, I don't know, like two things that I've just thought a bit about while you were talking. So my undergraduate and graduate studies were in psychology. It's just the thing I nerd out the most about and I'm most fascinated by. And I also just love therapy. Everyone should try it. But I'm not surprised that for a moment, The Office was a really positive, healing kind of conduit for you to feeling better. And also that's a really positive group environment because there's something in psych called opposite action, which is like when you're feeling not good, there's like root problems, and sometimes those take years to deal with, and sometimes they take medication, and also like the world changing. But in the moment, you can often kind of like fake it till you make it. Again, it's not going to solve the underlying things, but sometimes you're just like, I need to be in a better mood today, and I don't have time to solve whatever is going on. And opposite action is just do something that will put you more in that mood. So even my therapist, like if I've been like, I really need to like be great for this friend's wedding I'm going to. Like they deserve my best, shiniest, happiest self, but I'm like feeling kind of funky about whatever. She's like, can you watch a funny movie on the plane? Can you like listen to some loud, fun music while you're getting ready? Like trick yourself physiologically into feeling better. Yeah. And so The Office, you know, I think comedy is incredible because to sort of get out of one's head for a moment and get into another world, and that world have laughter in it and fun. Like, it's not shocking to me at all that serves so many people. And I think that that's like a really beautiful thing. And then you get people to come together because they love that experience. Like what a bummer it would be if that was a negative space. Like, it made me think of this other idea in psych called collective effervescence, which I feel like maybe we've talked about in some of our just friendly conversations. But when people get together, like you said, when it's around something tangible, it feels different. Like when people get together to make something or create something or celebrate something, collective effervescence means there's this energy that's more than just how you feel as one person. So for me, growing up, I spent every single dollar of babysitting money on concert tickets. Like all I did.
Okay. I can see that.
Oh yeah. I was like, I will babysit this child who has 9 pet rats, and it will be terrible, but I will get to go to the No Doubt concert. And like, that's worth it. Yeah. And I think I didn't understand what that was. Or in college, obviously I met your wife, Kelly, in a choir where we were coming together. We were exhausted. Sometimes we were cranky, but every time we came together, it was to create music together and perform music and then create a space where hopefully the audience could feel how I felt at the No Doubt concert and be part of this collective creative experience. Like it is so, I remember Adam Grant writing a piece during the pandemic about how people were missing that. There wasn't a level of joy you could give yourself in a room that compared to, I remember like going at some point when things started opening up to an Alanis Morissette concert, the Hollywood Bowl. I was like, I haven't felt screaming you ought to know with a sold out crowd. Yeah. You cannot feel that way when you're at home. And maybe there's something in the middle with like an office Facebook group where it's like probably not going to feel exactly like that, but it's going to feel like you're celebrating and connecting over something that's around laughter and funniness and joy and characters you care about. And I think that we need those communities. Like I feel like I'm not an internet hater. I hope not. I just spent 8 years working at BuzzFeed making things for the internet. And I have seen all the bad sides of it, but I also believe it can be such a connective space. Like if you're a kid in Kansas and it doesn't feel like anybody likes the stuff you like, and you're like, am I just weird or why am I alone all the time? You can go online and find people who love that stuff, and you can nerd out for forever. And I think that's incredibly beautiful too. Yeah. So I think it's just interesting that I'm with you. I would love for someone to study like why do certain groups become really healthy, affirmative, fun spaces, and then other groups so quickly veer into toxicity, or all of a sudden everyone's complaining, why don't you Google this? Like, what is that difference? Yeah. That'd be fascinating.
It would be fascinating to me too. My head goes immediately to the fact that I don't know how it would be possible anymore because of the amazing steps forward in programming that has created these apps that are very rapidly recognizing what we respond to for the purposes of engagement, but not knowing the difference between healthy and unhealthy engagement. So we have, we have so much working, I guess, against the healthy, wholesome, complete perspective of us finding that out. And we're engaging in mediums that are specifically intended to make it hard for us to see it, I guess.
Yeah, and they're messing with our brain chemistry. Like that, I think it was called The Social Dilemma. Yeah. Like that movie where it's just like, it's not our fault. Like it's built. Yeah. There are people who know a lot about how our brains and our hormones work. They are building these to make it addictive. Like it's not like, oh, I don't have the discipline to not control. I often in phases of my life have to delete Instagram off of my phone because I feel somehow so pulled to open it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it must, I'm not an addict in any way, but I imagine there's a touch of that where I'm like, this isn't about me tricking myself. Like I need to not have access to this for a minute. And so I think to your point, like it's scary that that's what we're fighting against. And no wonder everybody's sitting at their table. And that is why I will, on a micro level, like put my phone away if I'm with somebody, because if it's sitting here, it's so like everything in it. I'm like, don't look at it, you know, or having it, you know, we're talking now, it's on airplane mode. So nobody, like there can be nothing to look for. But I do think like, I try not to blame people on, and even working in the internet way, I remember what it's like to say, how do we get people to watch something for as many minutes as possible? And then how do we get it to suggest to the next thing they should watch? And I always at least tried to hope and believe that what we were making was positive for the world. So people were going to get sucked in. It would have a net positive versus net negative impact. But you're still, like, to me, engaging with people online, or not online, in person, is so different. Even, again, from a psych perspective, like, you know, co-regulation of your nervous system. Like, we're here talking, like, your mood, your energy, your thoughts are physiologically impacting mine and vice versa. And also, if someone's having a bad day, like it helps to get a great text from someone. It helps even more sometimes to sit with them and not even talk and watch The Office. Like it just, co-regulation is like a real thing and it's a lot harder to make happen online. And so I just think it's like, how do we get people to see each other in person as much as possible, and kind of get over the idea that talking technologically is somehow a replacement for that? Because to me, it should be for me personally, it's best when that is a way to hold over a relationship until we get to see each other again. But not...
It's snacks, but it's not food. Now, I feel
totally.
This is going to be fun. We need to cut. I'm trying to keep things to 30 minutes so that y'all can get the chunks. But you see why I wanted to talk to her?
Trust all your cuts.
It's fun, man. It's going to be the best. So we're going to cut for a little bit, and then we're going to continue. Jessica Massa, the bestest ever writer, everythinger, Greek archaeologist.
Sorry, we didn't get to that.
We shall. I want to touch more. You said love theory, and there was a second one you said, a concept you said. Oh my God, conspiratorial revolutions or something. What did you say?
That sounds like me.
Sorry. I should have wrote it down. I don't like to write while people are talking because it, feels like I'm not listening. But there's another one you mentioned. Anyways, we're going to continue. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff, man. Gumbolaya Podcast, C.A. Purcell. Come back next week or as soon as I can get it edited. Hopefully it'll be in one week. Peace, peace, peace.
If it's my time, then it's my time. Worry about yours, 'cause I got mine. 'Cause I got mine. Worry about yours, 'cause I got mine. 'Cause I got mine. Praise and production.